Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Amarachi Ubani in Lagos. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the country's agricultural export is what makes the world see the importance of Ukraine, as the grain deal has been extended for 4 months. The deal aimed at easing global food shortages by helping Ukraine export its agricultural products from the Black Sea ports was extended, though Russia said its own demands were yet to be fully addressed. The agreement, initially reached in July, created a protected transit corridor and was designed to alleviate shortages by allowing exports to resume from 3 ports in Ukraine, a major producer of grains and oilseeds.
Продовжено нашу експортну зернову ініціативу, попри всі складнощі, попри різноманітні маніпуляції Росії.
Since August 1, more than 450 ships have already left the ports of Great Odessa. The total amount of food is 11 million tons. The geography is very wide. Morocco, Algeria, Libya, Tunisia, Egypt, Sudan, Ethiopia, Somalia, Kenya, Yemen, Lebanon, Bangladesh, China, India, Indonesia, Turkey, as well as the countries of the European Union. It means that food prices are significantly lower than they would be without our food exports. We have done everything to expand this work, and I thank all our partners who are helping, the UN and Secretary General Guterres personally, Turkey and President Erdogan personally. I'm grateful to everyone in our team responsible for this work. What really matters is the results.
Ціни на їжу суттєво менші, ніж могли би бути без нашого продовольства.
Dutch judges have convicted 3 men of murder for their role in the 2014 shooting down of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 over Ukraine and sentenced them to life in prison. MH17 was a passenger flight that was shot down over eastern Ukraine on July 17, 2014, killing all 298 passengers and crew. The 3 men convicted were former Russian intelligence agents Igor Girkin and Sergei Dubinsky and Leonid Karchenko, a Ukrainian separatist leader. A 4th, Russian Oleg Pilatov, was acquitted on all charges. At the time, the area was the scene of fighting between pro-Russian separatists and Ukrainian forces, the precursor of this year's conflict. Victims' representatives said the ruling is an important milestone, though the suspects remain fugitives. They're all believed to be in Russia, which will not extradite them. However, families of the victims are relieved after the judge's conviction. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has welcomed the conviction by the Dutch court. He called on Russia, however, to hand over those found guilty. He was making the comment on the sidelines of the APEC news conference in Bangkok, Thailand.
I also want to just say on MH17 that we welcome the Hague District Court's finding of 3 men being guilty of murder over the downing of MH17. Our thoughts today are with the families and friends who lost loved ones in that atrocity. 38 people who call Australia home were killed of the 298 victims of this atrocious act of terrorism. And it is good that there's been cooperation between Australia and the Dutch security and police forces. We've gone through this legal and court processes, and we call upon Russia to hand over for justice the people who are involved in this and who've been found to be guilty in absentia.
Now to the updates going on with the investigations into the blast in Poland that left 2 people dead. Emergency crews, officials and convoys of military and unmarked vehicles have been pouring over the Polish village as the probe into the strike continues. Poland and NATO have said it's likely the missile was a stray Ukrainian air defense rocket. Poland also says there's no conclusive evidence as to who fired the missile. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba wrote on social media Ukraine would continue open and constructive cooperation with Poland over the incident. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry says its strikes in Ukraine are aimed at military and energy infrastructure. In a daily briefing, a military spokesperson said Russia had used long-range weapons to hit defense and industrial targets, including missile manufacturing facilities. About 10 million people have been left without power since the strikes. President Zelensky said that authorities in some places have ordered forced emergency blackouts. And now regarding the attack on the Nord Stream pipeline months ago, the Kremlin says it would await a full damage assessment before deciding on any repairs, if any. Spokesperson Dmitry Peskov added in a phone interview, there's permission for the joint venture that will carry out its own assessment of the damaged location. That's why we will wait, be patient and wait for the information from the joint venture or from the participant on our side, Gazprom. Swedish investigators found traces of explosives at the site of the damaged Nord Stream pipelines, confirming that gross sabotage had taken place. Nord Stream 1 and 2 have not responded, and neither Gazprom responded to comments on the issue. A cold winter ahead for Ukrainians. This time, the European Union, wading in, has decided to provide temporary cold weather shelter, generators and electricity grid repair kits to citizens to help tide over the winter ahead of a possible flare-up of hostilities in the conflict with Russia. That's according to a bloc's crisis management commissioner, Yanis Lenarchich. While winters in Ukraine tend to be very cold, with temperatures plunging well below 0 degrees Celsius, this one will be precarious, with Russia likely continuing to attack its power, water and heating infrastructure.
Winter is almost here, and this is now our cardinal priority when we talk about humanitarian aid. We have prioritized winterization already months ago, and these needs related to upcoming winter are now even more pronounced following the systematic destruction by Russia of critical infrastructure in Ukraine, which has so far resulted in a substantial damage to energy installations, heating installations, electricity grids, and waterworks. Ukrainians are doing their best to quickly repair, but for that they need assistance. We have been able to transfer to Ukraine, through the Union Civil Protection Mechanism, almost 75,000 tons of in-kind assistance. This is the largest, the most complex and the longest operation in the history of the Union Civil Protection Mechanism, and it continues. The other priority is energy-related assistance, like generators, repair kits for electricity grids, transformers, substations, and all these very technical items that Ukraine needs in order to repair the damage that the Russian attacks have done to the critical civilian infrastructure. And you see, the immediate consequence of this Russian criminal behavior is that it will aggravate the humanitarian crisis in large parts of Ukraine, and it will make life of Ukrainian civilians much harder.
The viewer is Anna Chernikova joins us now. Anna, great to see you. And we understand that millions of people are without electricity currently in Ukraine, and that's because of the recent attacks on the country by Russia. How are people coping with the situation?
Good evening. Yes, actually, electricity here at my place was just back a couple of minutes before we started. Well, people are coping. I should say people are just getting used to this, scheduled outages, which are currently working in Ukraine, operating in Ukraine. It just, the only option for people is just, get used to this. What I can say is that the whole life of Ukrainians right now is running according to this scheduled outages, but not everywhere schedules work perfectly. If we talk about Kyiv and big cities, mostly schedules are working. However, for a couple of last days, we were hearing that scheduled outages were not in place, but accident outages were in place due to the quite difficult situation with energy sector after this recent attack. So people are getting ready for a very tough winter. People buy warm clothes, buy warm blankets. People buy generators if they have a chance to place them either at their house or at the residential building. So a lot of residential building complexes, they buy generators to ensure that people at least would have a chance to charge laptops, charge phones, to cook something with a portable ovens and all this kind of, basically touristic equipment. A lot of touristic equipment is now used by people for cooking and for heating water and all this kind of things. And people are getting ready for wars because winter, as you correctly said, is coming, and actually winter is already here because it's second day of snowing in Ukraine, and it's minus degrees now Celsius in Ukraine. So people just preparing for quite a cold winter inside their houses as well, and make sure that they have alternative sources of energy and alternative sources that could help them to preheat water and food and to charge equipment so they can be in touch with their relatives.
It almost seems that Ukraine has come full circle. I mean, the war started while the winter was still on. People plowing through snow, walking long distances just to get away, from the theater of war. And now another winter is here, and those who are left behind have to deal with it because it's worse now without energy sources and things even being more dire. What's been done, however, about food supply through the winter months?
Well, in general, it's no problem with food supply in Ukraine, similarly to drinking water. Of course, if we talk about recently liberated areas or areas which are close to the front line and constantly under heavy shelling, the situation is more difficult. However, supplies are coming, and both governmental and humanitarian organizations ensure this supply. But I should say that all territories which are currently under Ukrainian control, they don't have any problem with food or water supply. As winter is coming, it doesn't seem that the situation will change or will get worse. But again, if nothing extraordinary happens, So for the moment, at least as what we see now, people are safe in terms of food and water supply.
And it's no surprise, the Russians saying that they targeted Ukraine's military and energy infrastructure. I mean, that's how you help a country come down. Of course, you cripple a country's economy, you cripple the people when you target energy and infrastructure where they live, and you target the main sources of their water and, electricity, and especially at this time when it's really cold. What has the government said, though, about fighting back? These Ukrainian missiles that have been coming in. There is a projection that there will be more missile strikes in the next few weeks and into the winter, and we don't know when this war is going to end.
Yes, correctly. Well, what government is saying is, Ukrainian government do not say that they will fight back and fire back to Russian energy infrastructure, for instance, right? So Ukrainian government is saying that Ukraine is not interested in any other territory, just Ukrainian territory. So the main task now for Ukrainian army in particular, and Ukrainian government, is to liberate occupied territories. Ukraine, at least we don't have any official announcements or report that Ukraine is targeting any of energy infrastructure back in Russia. And Ukraine, well, at least it don't seem that Ukraine is planning to do so at this point of time. What Ukraine will do, and this is what President Zelensky is saying, and Ukrainian officials and military officials in particular are saying that, of course, Ukraine will continue their counteroffensive actions, counteroffensive operations along the front line. So we're not only talking about South front line, but also Eastern front line. And of course, we don't get much details. We only have, post factum information due to security reasons, as what happened to Kherson, for instance. We didn't really have a lot of details before it was liberated. So Ukraine will definitely continue, and it doesn't seem that Ukraine would stop with its counteroffensive actions during winter time. It looks like all the counteroffensives will continue as winter is coming and as winter is going. And definitely Ukraine will work hard to make sure that all the energy infrastructure is repaired when it is possible to repair it, and it works as much as it can, and people have at least, energy supply for a certain period of time. Because for the moment, energy supply companies saying that if the worst case scenario is coming, it might be that people will have scheduled a power supply, on, not outages. So it will be like outage for a couple of days, and then for a couple of hours, people will have electricity back. Again, this is the worst case scenario, but this is something that people also is getting ready to. So for the moment, I can say that official Ukrainian position that Ukraine continues its counteroffensive actions and making sure it survives winter.
Hard to believe you're actually reporting from a country under war. Anna, thanks again for bringing us up the updates, and do stay safe and warm.
Thank you.